You are sitting in a crowded room, watching everyone around you erupt into dramatic emotional chaos over a minor inconvenience, while your own heart rate remains perfectly flat and undisturbed. They look at you as if you are fundamentally broken, accusing you of being cold, distant, and completely devoid of human empathy just because you refuse to panic with them. Today, we will decode the psychology of people who stay emotionally cold, revealing how this extreme detachment is not a personality defect, but the most advanced biological conservation system your brain possesses to protect you from a deeply dysregulated world. We live in a society that has aggressively romanticized emotional fragility. From a very young age, you are sold the dangerous lie that caring deeply about absolutely everything is the ultimate virtue of a good human being. You are told that if you are a good friend, a loyal partner, or a caring family member, you must absorb the pain, the stress, and the daily dramatic fluctuations of everyone in your immediate circle. The modern world heavily rewards the performance of empathy. It celebrates the people who cry the loudest, who react the most intensely, and who publicly bleed their emotional energy for the sake of others. Because of this intense cultural conditioning, when you fail to exhibit these dramatic emotional responses, you begin to suspect that something is fundamentally wrong with your neurological wiring. You wonder why a crisis that causes others to break down in tears only makes you intensely analytical, quiet, and profoundly detached. You have likely spent years wearing a psychological mask, pretending to be emotionally devastated by trivial events just so you do not stand out, faking your reactions just to make the fragile people around you feel more comfortable. You exhaust yourself performing an emotional theater that your biology completely rejects. But this forced empathy is quietly destroying your cognitive bandwidth. The truth is, the people who are constantly accusing you of being cold are not actually looking for your compassion. They are looking for a co-signer for their chaos, and they are deeply offended that your nervous system refuses to finance their emotional debt. Listen to me very carefully. The individuals who operate at the absolute highest level of psychological mastery understand a biological reality that the majority of the population remains entirely blind to. Human emotion is highly contagious, and it carries a massive metabolic cost. In your brain, there is a specialized network of cells known as mirror neurons. The primary evolutionary function of these neurons is to observe the emotional state of the people around you and replicate that exact state within your own body. If someone near you begins to panic, your mirror neurons immediately signal your amygdala to release cortisol and adrenaline, forcing your body to experience their panic as if it were your own physical emergency. For the vast majority of the population, these mirror neurons operate like wide-open, unregulated floodgates. They walk into a room and they instantly absorb the anxiety, the anger, and the desperation of every single stranger they encounter. They call themselves empaths and wear this constant emotional exhaustion like a badge of honor, failing to realize that they are simply existing with a severely compromised psychological immune system. They are bleeding their sacred life force into a void, constantly exhausted, constantly overwhelmed, and entirely incapable of building their own empires because they have given all of their energy away to the chaos of others. While 95% of the population acts as a completely unprotected sponge, willingly absorbing the toxic emotional waste of their environment, you join the quiet minority who builds the firewall. You realize that your internal peace is a sovereign nation and you fiercely defend its borders. The psychology of people who stay emotionally cold operates on a fundamentally different, highly sophisticated architecture. They have not deleted their mirror neurons. They have simply installed a ruthless, conscious filter between perception and absorption. When a crisis occurs, or when someone attempts to dump their emotional garbage onto them, they perceive the distress, but they completely refuse to internalize it. They utilize what clinical psychology refers to as cognitive empathy rather than emotional empathy. Emotional empathy is crying because someone else is crying. It is jumping into the quicksand with the drowning person and drowning right alongside them. It is biologically useless in a true crisis. Cognitive empathy, however, is the ultimate superpower. It is the ability to stand on a solid edge of the quicksand, look at the drowning person with cold, calculating clarity, perfectly understand the mechanics of why they are sinking, and throw them a rope without ever getting your own boots dirty. You understand their pain logically, but you deny it access to your emotional grid. This absolute refusal to match the emotional temperature of the room makes you an incredibly terrifying mirror to deeply dysregulated people. When a toxic individual tries to provoke you, insult you, or drag you into a heated argument, they are desperately seeking an emotional reaction. They need you to get angry, to raise your voice, or to look visibly hurt, because your reaction validates their existence. It gives them power over your internal state. When you respond to their aggressive, fiery chaos with nothing but a blank, unbothered stare, you completely short-circuit their manipulation tactics. You deprive them of the exact dopamine hit they were trying to steal from you. They will call you cold. They will call you heartless. They will call you arrogant. But you must understand that these accusations are simply the frustrated tantrums of a predator that just realized its prey is entirely made of stone. But here is where the illusion completely shatters. Here is where we must strip away the armor and confront the darkest reality of your extreme independence. You use this coldness as a shield, and you are incredibly proud of how impenetrable your fortress has become. You tell yourself that you do not need anyone. You pride yourself on your hyper-independence, boasting that you can walk away from any relationship, any friendship, and any situation the very second it stops serving you. You believe that your ability to sever ties without shedding a single tear makes you psychologically superior to the weak, needy masses who constantly beg for affection. You are lying to yourself. The painful truth is that your extreme emotional coldness is not just a strategic defense mechanism against a chaotic world, it is a deeply ingrained trauma response. You did not become hyper-independent because you are naturally superior. You became hyper-independent because, at some foundational point in your life, the people who are supposed to protect you, support you, and validate you completely failed to do so. You learned, in the most brutal way possible, that relying on other human beings for your emotional safety always ends in betrayal, disappointment, or abandonment. Subconsciously, you made a ruthless calculation to survive. You decided that if you never need anyone, nobody can ever disappoint you. If you never let anyone inside the fortress, nobody can ever burn it down. But in your desperate attempt to protect yourself from pain, you have completely isolated yourself from the human experience. Your future self is standing in the corner of your perfectly secure, perfectly quiet room right now, looking at you with profound pity. They are watching you build the walls of your fortress so incredibly high and thick that you are eventually going to starve to death inside of it. You are terrified of genuine vulnerability, so you disguise your profound fear of intimacy as intellectual superiority. Every time someone actually tries to get close to you, every time someone offers you genuine warmth or attempts to understand the complex layers of your mind, your nervous system perceives it as a lethal threat. You immediately deploy the ice. You find a microscopic flaw in their character. You emotionally detach, and you push them away, convincing yourself that they were simply not intelligent enough, not strong enough, or not worthy of your presence. But the brutal reality is that you push them away because you are terrified that if anyone truly sees the raw, unfiltered version of who you are beneath the armor, they will leave you. And so, you leave them first. You abandon the connection before it can abandon you. You are playing a rigged game against yourself, ensuring that you always win the battle of independence, while quietly losing the war for a meaningful existence. Let the average individual remain entirely blind to their own self-sabotage, constantly playing the victim of their own defense mechanisms. You are not average. You have the rare, intimidating courage to turn your clinical observation inward. You analyze your own shadows with the exact same ruthless precision you use to decode the world. To master your psychology, you must stop treating your emotional coldness as a permanent personality trait and start treating it as a highly calibrated tool. The goal of human evolution is not to become a numb, unfeeling robot. The goal is sovereign regulation. You must realize that your biological firewall is incredibly effective at keeping the toxic, chaotic, and manipulative vampires out of your life. But a firewall that cannot be temporarily lowered for the right people is not a defense system. It is a prison. Mastery requires the profound courage to audit your relationships. You must continue to use your absolute detachment against the narcissists, the complainers, and the energy drains of the world. You must remain a cold, impenetrable gray rock when faced with manufactured drama. But when you find the rare individuals who actually match your depth, the people who respect your silence, who challenge your intellect, and who do not demand performative emotional theater, you must take the terrifying risk of lowering the drawbridge. This selective vulnerability is the ultimate display of true psychological power. The weak mind is forced to feel everything, completely at the mercy of the wind. The traumatized mind forces itself to feel nothing, terrified of the storm. But the sovereign mind chooses exactly what to feel, when to feel it, and who gets the privilege of experiencing it. You do not have to abandon your analytical nature to experience connection. You simply have to grant the right people the security clearance to enter your grid. When you achieve this level of calibration, your emotional detachment stops being a trauma response and transforms into your greatest asset. You become the quiet anchor in a world full of frantic, desperate ships. When the market crashes, when the crisis hits, or when everyone else is running around screaming about the end of the world, you will be the one standing perfectly still, calculating the exact trajectory required to win. Your silence will intimidate the weak, but it will attract the formidable. You have two distinct paths laid out before you right now. You can continue to let your fear dictate your reality. You can keep everyone at arm's length, hide behind your intellectual superiority, and live the rest of your life perfectly safe, perfectly numb, and existentially alone. You can continue to mistake isolation for power, or you can refine the weapon. You can realize that your ability to detach is a biological superpower designed to protect your energy, not destroy your humanity. You can starve the chaos of the masses while selectively letting the warmth into the inner sanctum. You can build a life so intensely focused and deeply connected to truth that the trivial drama of the modern world simply ceases to exist in your dimension. The choice is entirely yours, but the clock is ticking and the fortress is getting colder by the second. While others drown in performative outrage, you anchor into clinical observation. While others bleed their energy to please strangers, you respond with absolute sovereignty. That is not coldness, that is evolution. And evolution is the quiet superpower that separates the fragmented from the unshakable. If you are ready to claim that sovereignty, subscribe to Analytical Legacy. Check the description for the clinical tools that will help you build your mental framework. Protect your energy, master the cold. See you in the next protocol.